Welcome back to our channel, dear viewers. Today is a wonderfully bright day to gather together and delve into the fascinating, ever-changing world of our favorite daytime drama. We are incredibly grateful for your continued presence in our community as we explore the rich history of this cherished show. Now, we are about to see this happen once again, and I must admit, I am absolutely thrilled by the possibilities. The producers have officially announced the decision to age up the character of Scout, casting a talented young actress in the role for a highly anticipated July debut. This transition from a sweet, innocent child to a complex teenager is not just a simple casting change. It is a seismic shift in the narrative landscape, particularly for Willow, who is about to find herself navigating the incredibly treacherous waters of becoming a stepmother to a perceptive and likely rebellious teenager. Let us take a moment to truly analyze what this monumental shift means for Willow. In the past, she enjoyed a relatively uncomplicated and affectionate relationship with the younger version of Scout. Children are wonderfully trusting, easily won over by a warm smile and a gentle demeanor. But teenagers? Teenagers are a completely different story entirely. They possess a natural skepticism, a built-in radar for hypocrisy, and a fierce protective instinct when it comes to their parents. There is absolutely no guarantee that the harmonious bond Willow once shared with little Scout will transfer to this older, wiser, and undoubtedly more cynical iteration of the character. In fact, I would argue that a teenager is precisely the kind of adversary Willow is completely unprepared to face. Willow has spent so much time crafting this angelic, self-sacrificing image, but a sharp-eyed teenager can often see right through the most carefully constructed facades. To fully appreciate the danger Scout poses to Willow, we must look at the horrifying reality of what Willow is currently doing behind closed doors. My heart breaks when I watch these scenes, yet I cannot look away from the sheer audacity of her crimes. Willow has completely abandoned her moral center. She is not merely keeping a secret, she is actively and maliciously torturing Drew. After shooting him a shocking act of violence that still leaves me breathless every time I think about it, she has been systematically drugging him to simulate the devastating effects of a severe stroke. She has locked a vibrant, active man inside his own unresponsive body, all while playing the role of the tragic, devoted wife to the outside world. It is a chilling performance, a masterpiece of manipulation that has fooled doctors, friends, and family alike. But how long can such a monstrous deception hold up under the intense scrutiny of a teenager living under the exact same roof? We must never forget whose blood runs through the veins of Scout. She is the daughter of Sam, a woman who possessed unparalleled investigative instincts, a fearless spirit, and an absolute refusal to back down from a fight. Sam was a private investigator who built a career on uncovering hidden truths and exposing dangerous lies. Furthermore, Scout is the daughter of Drew, a man with a military background, trained to observe, survive, and overcome impossible odds. With a pedigree like that, are we really expected to believe that Scout will simply sit quietly in her room while her father wastes away under suspicious circumstances? Absolutely not. I firmly believe that the writers are positioning Scout to be the ultimate catalyst for the downfall of Willow. The apple does not fall far from the tree, and this teenage girl is going to inherit her mother's sharp mind and her father's unyielding determination. Consider the daily reality of the household once Scout returns from her summer activities. Willow is currently putting on an elaborate show, hovering over the bedside of Drew, dabbing his brow, and shedding crocodile tears for the benefit of anyone who comes to visit. But playing a role 24 hours a day is exhausting, and maintaining that level of deception in front of a teenager who lives with you is nearly impossible. Will Scout begin to notice the subtle inconsistencies in the behavior of Willow? I am absolutely certain of it. She might notice that the grief Willow displays seems highly performative, or that her eyes lack genuine sorrow when she thinks no one is watching. Teenagers are incredibly observant when it comes to the emotional authenticities of the adults in their lives. Scout is going to sense that something is fundamentally wrong, a coldness beneath the warm exterior of Willow that simply does not align with the narrative of a heartbroken wife. One of the most glaring vulnerabilities in the current situation of Willow is her complicated, messy entanglement with Chase. We know that Willow has already confessed her true feelings to Chase, admitting that she no longer loves Drew and feels entirely trapped in her current life. This is a massive ticking time bomb waiting to explode. What happens if Scout, moving quietly through the house as teenagers often do, overhears a hushed conversation between Willow and Chase? The classic television trope of eavesdropping is a time-honored tradition for a reason. It works beautifully to propel the plot forward. Imagine the sheer shock and outrage Scout would feel upon hearing her supposed stepmother coldly confess a lack of love for her paralyzed father. This alone would be enough to ignite a fire of suspicion in the heart of Scout, prompting her to look closer at everything Willow says and does. Beyond emotional inconsistencies, there is the terrifying physical reality of what Willow is doing to Drew. She is administering continuous injections to maintain his paralyzed, stroke-like state. Willow is a former nurse. She knows how to handle medical equipment, but she is not an infallible criminal mastermind. Will Scout accidentally walk in on one of these clandestine medical procedures? I think it is highly probable and would make for phenomenal television. Scout might question why Willow is giving Drew medications that are not on his official chart, or why she is so fiercely protective of his medical supplies. If Scout starts doing her own research, perhaps looking up the medications or consulting a doctor behind the back of Willow, the entire house of cards will begin to collapse. The idea of a teenage girl using the internet and her natural intuition to unravel a complex medical poisoning plot is both modern and deeply satisfying for those of us watching at home. But perhaps the most emotionally wrenching possibility lies with Drew himself. He is trapped in a living nightmare, fully aware of his surroundings but entirely unable to move or speak. Yet, the human will to survive is extraordinary, especially when it comes to protecting one's child. Could Drew find a way to communicate his desperate situation to his daughter? I can easily envision a powerfully moving scene where Scout sits by the side of her father, pouring out her teenage frustrations and fears, only to notice a subtle, deliberate movement. A blink, a twitch of the finger, a specific pattern of eye movements. If Drew manages to bypass the drugs just enough to send a silent message, a frantic signal communicated through a series of blinks, it would be a defining moment for both characters. It would be the spark that sets Scout on a relentless crusade to save her father from the monster posing as his wife. We must also consider the timing of these events. The new, older Scout is slated to debut in July, right in the heart of the summer season. Willow has likely concocted a convenient excuse to keep the child out of the way, perhaps sending her off to a lengthy summer camp. This is a classic maneuver to remove complications while a villain executes their plot. But what if the intuition of Scout tells her she needs to be home? What if she intentionally gets herself expelled from camp, or simply runs away to return home early? An unexpected early arrival would completely blindside Willow, disrupting her carefully managed timeline and throwing her into a state of panic. It is in moments of panic that criminals make mistakes, and an unannounced teenage arrival is the perfect catalyst for Willow to slip up and reveal her true, sinister nature. As we look further down the line, there is the possibility that Drew might begin to naturally recover, or that Willow, feeling the immense pressure of her lies, might alter her strategy. If Drew regains his speech, the immediate response from Willow would likely be blackmail. She might threaten him, using past secrets, or even leveraging the safety of Scout to force his silence. But again, this relies on the flawed assumption that Scout is oblivious. If Scout realizes that her father is awake but inexplicably terrified of his own wife, her investigative instincts will go into overdrive. she would undoubtedly recognize the signs of emotional abuse and coercion. Watching a bright, determined young woman piece together a blackmail scheme to liberate her father would be incredibly rewarding television, showcasing the strength and resilience inherited from her legendary parents. The inevitable climax of this storyline is something I am eagerly anticipating with every fiber of my being. I want to see the exact moment when Scout stands before the entire town and exposes Willow for the fraud and criminal she has truly become. Imagine the dramatic weight of that confrontation. Willow, desperately clinging to her victim narrative, suddenly faced with the undeniable, meticulously gathered evidence presented by her own teenage stepdaughter. It would be a poetic reversal of fortune. Willow thought she had eliminated every threat, underestimating the power of a child's love for her father. The sheer satisfaction of watching the mask of Willow slip, of seeing her held accountable not by the police or a rival, but by the young girl she thought she could easily manipulate, would be a masterclass in dramatic justice. Yet, as thrilling as the exposure of the crimes of Willow will be, there is an even more monumental twist on the horizon, one that leaves me absolutely breathless with anticipation. The whispers and clues suggest that the investigation by Scout into the condition of her father will lead her to a discovery that defies logic and rewrites history entirely. What if Scout discovers that her mother, the beloved Sam, is not dead after all? Just pause and absorb the magnitude of that possibility. We have mourned Sam, we have watched her loved ones grieve, but in this town, death is rarely a permanent condition. If Scout, using the very skills she inherited from her mother, manages to follow a hidden trail of breadcrumbs that leads straight to a living, breathing Sam, it would be the television event of the decade. The implications of Sam being alive are staggering and wonderful to contemplate. How did she survive? Where has she been? Who has been keeping her hidden from her family? These are the questions that keep longtime viewers like myself awake at night. If Scout is the one to bring Sam back, it elevates the teenager from a supporting player to a central hero of the canvas. Imagine the emotional reunion between mother and daughter, a daughter who has grown up so much in the absence of her mother, who has bravely fought to save her father, and who has now miraculously restored her family. It brings tears to my eyes just visualizing the moment Sam steps back into the light, wrapping her arms around the brilliant young woman Scout has become. The return of Sam would send absolute shockwaves through the entire town, providing Drew with the ultimate healing balm and casting Willow out into the cold reality of prison and disgrace.